Welcome to Late Night Lit. It is conspiracy month at Late Night Library. So we decided to read a book about the Roswell UFO Crash. Mm-hmm. Now, this was a contender amongst other things. We had considered reading a book about the JFK assassination since the 50th anniversary just passed.
Thinking about reading Libra, but then we realized that was like 900 pages long and fictional.
And all the other books were hardcover and new, and we can't afford to buy them.
Yeah.
So
send us money so we can read books with better covers.
Right.
Mine has an alien on it.
Mine is the same book, but it is from the Portland State University Library, so it has nothing on it except
Woo!
the slip saying how long I get to keep it.
Which means that Candace didn't have to hide her book when she read it in public, which I had to do. Because it has...
Did you really do that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, not hide it, but I would kind of, if I was sitting at a table, I'd go like...
Right.
Oh, interesting. This is a normal book.
I guess I never took mine in public.
Yeah. That's probably why.
That's probably why I didn't take it in public, because I didn't want to have the conversation about it. I wish the library still had those slips that say who takes out the book.
Yeah.
Because I'd really love to see who else took out this book.
People.
So we chose Roswell, and I was looking up several different books about Roswell, and there are a lot of them. And they all have, like, these crazy sort of conspiracy theory titles, typically with exclamation points, because they really want to get you excited about it.
Surprised this doesn't have one.
I'm surprised too. I chose this one because I read that the author Kal K. Korff, I mean, his initials are KKK. Let's just point that out.
I would rethink that if I were him. But...
I read that he has written other conspiracy books, so I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, he knows how to write conspiracy, so we're going to read this book. I was very surprised to find that this is actually an anti-Roswell conspiracy book.
Which its cover would not suggest at all. Like, this is a very pixelated image on the cover. It looks like really kind of low bug. Like, it's kind of... It looks like they had a smaller image. And they're like, I don't know, Cal, it's not really a good resolution. And he was like, just print it.
Because what they're trying to do with that cover is get people who believe in the Roswell conspiracy to read this book and all of a sudden be like... Whoa!
Because the title is The Roswell UFO Crash, What They Don't Want You to Know, with kind of the pseudo-government stamp, you know, like top secret. It's like, who is they? And as it turns out, I was thinking about this when I finished it, I guess they are ufologists.
Right. Or as he refers to them in here as the pro-UFO community.
Everyone must imagine themselves rebelling against some kind of establishment.
Right.
Which is interesting,
so he's... anti-establishment.
But he also believes in UFOs and aliens. I was thinking about this.
He
is like Mulder.
It. But he wants it to be accurate.
Yeah.
Like, he is like Mulder. He wants to believe, but he ultimately wants accuracy.
Also, the truth is out there and trust no one. Those are the three main tenets of Mulderism.
I think those are going to end up tattooed on my body at some point in this lifetime.
I thought you were going to say butt.
It might be my butt.
Yeah, it could be
Probably
your butt.
not.
So, yeah, this book is basically a piece-by-piece takedown of the Roswell mythos. And he starts off, and it's written very vindictively against, you know, people who have argued for, you know, the various Roswell explanations. And he loves exclamation points and italics.
Oh my God.
He has
lots
various
of italics,
uses of
yeah.
But he was not even in the Air Force at the time, italics, exclamation point. It's like, all right, Cal. It's interesting because he's very logical and he approaches things kind of piece by piece, but he has the writing style of an insane conspiracy theorist where it's like a lot of exclamation points, a lot of like, you feel like if you talk to him, he would exhibit pressured speech. Like, he would just kind of, there would be spittle flying and he would be like a close talker.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's close talk writing.
Yeah.
And I don't associate kind of rational debunking with writing that's so kind of,
Did you also have in your version like pages and pages and pages of quoted correspondence between people? It's like, dude,
well, really?
Paraphrase. Put it in a single paragraph.
This book is 300 pages long and it really doesn't need to
It could be like
50.
10 pages long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Roswell for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I knew about Roswell. I knew it was New Mexico. I knew there's some show on, what was it, WB? I've actually never seen the show.
Neither have I. I just knew the premise. So I'm
Right,
lazy.
I read a little bit about it while I was reading this, because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is connected somehow.
And it was like, and I guess this was, so in like 1996, Showtime had like a TV movie based on Jesse Marcel's testimony. And then it's like in the 90s, there was this whole kind of conspiracy paranormal fad with like the alien autopsy and the X-Files. And, which is interesting too. I mean, I want to talk about why the 90s and the 40s and 50s were like big science fiction eras in America. But yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's get back to that later, because I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
I really didn't know anything except that there was like this supposed crash, a spaceship crash, that was covered up by the government. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much all I knew.
Yeah.
And that it was in the 40s. Did you know anything more than that?
I knew that. I think I thought it was like in the 50s. I knew that it was in the before time, in the long ago. And I had confused Area 51 and Roswell, or kind of conflated them. So I thought, I knew it was in New Mexico, and I think I thought Area 51 was also in New Mexico, or like in Roswell or something, and that there were some aliens. And I had read something on the Straight Dope a few years ago, which is a great website for conspiracy theory debunkers and enjoyers. That basically debunked it, but in about 1,000 words. And Cecil Adams, who writes it, is kind of lovably snide. So he said, ultimately, it comes down to a few people out in the desert too long without a hat, or something like that. What I came away from it remembering was that it was weather balloons, and I was like, well, that makes sense. So yeah, I knew that it was. I didn't really believe it going into this, but I remember like seeing, you know, there were a lot of specials about it when I was growing up, like in the late 90s, and I remember being like, what if?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, because obviously we want to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
who
without
doesn't,
question.
ultimately.
Yeah.
We all want to believe in something.
Yeah. So, turns out that Roswell was actually the result of something called Project Mogul, which I had never heard of. Oh, I have the synopsis right here.
Okay, yeah,
Do you want me to read a little bit? Okay.
Yeah.
Project Mogul was a super secret operation in 1947 that involved the use of constant level balloon trains that were equipped with various instruments for intelligence gathering purposes.
And here's where the balloons would be. See, there's a balloon.
Right.
There's the Eiffel
they're
Tower.
Not gonna be able to see that.
No. Well, I have an illustration, so
yeah.
Write to me, and for $2, I'll send you a photocopy.
Basically, what they looked like were these weird three-dimensional sort of diamonds.
Yeah, polypropylene.
Yeah, it looked sort of like aluminum foil on the outside or on the inside.
And had some balsa wood reinforced with glue, like
right.
basic kiddie stuff.
And they were connected in a train, like via some sort of string or
like
rope
nylon,
or something.
yeah,
it
like
sort
a
of
braided
just looks
rope.
like a, science kite.
And not so much like a UFO at all.
No. There was like a train of them, and they were testing them at this point,
To
right?
see if they could gather intelligence about the Russians and whether, I don't know, the Russians were just doing anything. I don't know.
So they were testing them in New Mexico.
Yeah.
They weren't testing Russians in New Mexico. They were just testing Project Mogul.
Well, and it's interesting because this also gets into the way the Air Force uses the term UFO and how they mean it. They have it mean like an American aircraft that goes off course, or like a Russian spacecraft or something like that. So, I mean, in a sense, it is true.
It is a UFO.
So what happens was they crash, and then some people saw it, and many more people decades later claim to have seen it, or to have gone and found a wrecked saucer and seen dead aliens inside of it, which always was the spookiest part of it.
Well, yeah, because that's the one thing that doesn't make sense. So some people saw these things go down.
Yeah.
We're not really sure what happened or why they failed.
But
some people saw them coming down or saw it happening and went to go investigate and found what they described as like indestructible material that looked like aluminum foil.
Here's something that I really started thinking about when I read this, was that you see this in the X-Files and like any kind of, a lot of sort of alien movies and narratives where like you find a piece of metal and you're like, I don't recognize this metal. It must have been made by aliens. And it's like, if I see metal I don't recognize, I assume it's man-made because I'm not a metallurgist. Like, why does everyone become an expert in metal?
Right.
When it comes down to this. So they find this kind of tinfoil that's been used for the Project Mogul balloons. They're like, my God, I don't recognize this. It must be made by aliens. And it's like, maybe you're a farmer and you don't know anything about metal.
You don't know shit about metal.
How do we know these these aliens are even using metal? I mean, what if they don't come from
Right.
planets with metal all over them?
Right.
Why is metal the key?
I think it would be a material that you wouldn't even be able to equate with anything you've ever seen. Word gets out, different things happen. Someone in the military, without the correct permissions, puts out a press release, right, about this. And that's how it explodes.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, people from the military are sent there to collect the evidence of what had crashed and bring it to a different site in Texas where someone could investigate it.
Yeah.
And that's where things got kind of mixed up, is that now there's sort of the conspiracy is that the stuff was brought from New Mexico to Texas, but that it was either replaced by false things that weren't it, or it never made it to Texas, or that at some point in between people were lying about what they saw
Or
in
just
Texas.
willfully misidentified.
Yeah.
And it is true to an extent, because they said it was a weather balloon, and it wasn't actually.
It
was
wasn't
something
actually a weather balloon.
like it.
But
So the people were being
Yeah,
lied
they
to.
were sort of in the dark also, but that was a more logical explanation.
They found some weird crap. Somewhere along the line, someone decided it's a flying saucer, which apparently was sort of in the American consciousness at the time. What I find really interesting, I mean, I don't think that it was aliens. Kal K. Korff has berated me into not believing that with all his exclamation points. And he does do a good job of taking it on detail by detail. He gets an exhausting
Yeah.
one. So I don't think it was
Yeah.
aliens. But what I think is really interesting is why the people wanted so badly to believe that it was aliens. Like this,
Right.
we wanted this to be true. I mean, why was that? What do you think?
That's a really good question, Sarah. I feel like that would be an
Thank
appropriate
you.
time for like a cut to the next episode. Like,
All right, noted.
dot.
Next week, and play a little organ. Find
yeah.
out what Candace
Find
thinks.
out what Candace thinks.
Find out what wine Sarah and Candace are drinking. And learn whether the Aztecs really did learn how to build pyramids with the help of extraterrestrials.